Hey folks, I'm Gene Delasala with Audioholics, and we are here to do another unboxing video. We're doing it for Yamaha again. Why are we doing two unboxing videos for Yamaha? Because they released two new separates. We just did an unboxing video of the CX-A5200 11-channel processor. Now we're doing an unboxing of their matching MX-A5200 11-channel power amp. Now guys, I've reviewed the older version of this amplifier in the past, the MX-A5000. And let me tell you something, on paper, it doesn't sound like it's a juggernaut of an amplifier. At a rated of 150 watts times 11, it doesn't sound like it's much more powerful than a receiver. But quite frankly, this thing has some good performance specs on it. And I was surprised when I measured it on the bench. I found three things I like in a good amplifier. The linearity was excellent under any impedance, whether I drove an 8 or 4 ohm load. Frequency response as well, it didn't vary, it was very even. The noise was excellent. What I do is I measure every amplifier at full power, and I also measure it at 1 watt. And then I give you the SNR at 1 watt, which in this case was 90 dB on the MX-A5000. And the reason why I give you 1 watt is you can't compare SNR from amplifier to amplifier, apples to apples, unless those amplifiers are rated at the same power, unless they give you a known reference. That's why I give you the 1 watt reference. So at 1 watt, 90 dB is a very good noise floor, and that's what the MX-A5000 had. The other thing is this was able to hit its rated 150 watts of channel power with about 5 channels driven. And that's pretty good. I mean, a lot of these multi-channel amplifiers, they can't do 11 channels, all channels driven, simply because there's not enough wall current. With a 15 amp line, you can only deliver so much power. You know, that's an 1800 watts, you gotta derate that to less than 1500 watts, and then you take the amplifier inefficiencies out, and you're down to maybe 1000 watts, 1200 watts total. And that's if you have like a very high efficient, either a class G or even a class D in those cases. So to give you 5 channels driven at rated power and then derating it from there is pretty good. That's what this guy did. And in my listening test on the MX-A5000, it actually was a good sounding amp. Like I just didn't think it was gonna have a lot of balls to it, but it drove my speaker system really well. It never got hot, I never heard the fans turn on. So the thing I like about this amp is it's not as meaty as some of its competitors, but they put a lot of heatsink area in it. They've done a good job with thermal regulation of the amplifier. It doesn't get hot, so you could cook an egg on it. And the thing about Yamaha is they have incredible reliability. I mean, I've had Yamaha products for years, never had any of them fail on me, like I've had with some of the esoteric brands of amplifiers. So while I'm unboxing this, I wanted to tell you guys, talk about channel density with these amplifiers, because now we're dealing with Atmos and DTS-X, and we're getting more and more channels added to our systems. You're cramming more channels into the same size chassis that would normally be designed for a 5 or 7 channel amp. Now you're putting 10, 11, and even more channels in the same size chassis. So obviously something has to give. You can't go and make a super duper power amplifier in those cases, so you have to have some compromises. And you know, it's interesting because when you're looking at 11 channel amplifiers, you only have 3 options. Okay, maybe you have 4 options. The 4th option is a company called Storm Audio, and they have a 16 channel amplifier using a Pascal Class D, which is a really good, one of the best Class Ds on the market, 200 watts times 16, but that's 11,000 bucks. I mean, that's crazy out of the price. Yeah, out of the ballpark, basically. So in this price range, you have 3 options. You've got the Yamaha MX-A5200, which is $2,900. That's what we're gonna be unboxing now. You've got the mono price. Believe it or not, mono price is here to stay, my friends. They have ATI making their amplifiers. They make some excellent amplifiers. We reviewed their 2-channel and their 7-channel, and I bench tested 2-channel. And ATI amplifiers are about the limit of how good you could get Class AB. So I really like that amp. So they came out with the Monolith 11, and that retails for $2,500. And then of course, Emotiva, they are now onto their Gen 3. They have their XPA 11 Gen 3, and that retails for about $2,000. But there's pros and cons to each of these amplifiers, so I can't tell you one is the superior choice in all cases. So let's go over this a little bit before I unbox this. The Emotiva XPA 11 Gen 3, I don't really get that amplifier, to be honest with you, because they switched with the Gen 3, they switched from linear power supplies to SMPS. I'm not sold on using SMPS for linear amps. I think there's still more work that needs to be done to show and to prove that that's as good as a linear power supply. because I've seen measurements on that, and there's some interesting noise artifacts that I've seen in the other measurements published by THX and also Stereophile. But also the way they rate that amplifier, they rate it at 300 watts with one channel driven. And that's crazy. I've never seen a dedicated amplifier company rate with only one channel driven. So the Gen 3 is rated at 300 watts, one channel driven. They give you 3 modules for 300 watts times 3. But then the other modules, their other 8 modules are only 65 watts a channel. So that's a 6 dB less output for all those other channels. So I don't really quite get that model. I think if you're going to look at the Gen 3 from Emotiva, you might want to look at the lower channel densities, like the 7 channel or the 9 channel at most. But I don't get the 11 channel. That's just my opinion. But when it comes to monoprice, that monolith amp, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, that thing drops an anvil on the industry. While the Emotiva only weighs a wimpy 53 pounds, that monoprice amplifier weighs almost 100 pounds. It's like 93 pounds. It's 200 watts a channel times 3. So the front 3 LCRs are 200 watts, and then it's 100 watts a channel times 8. So you're only getting a 3 dB less output in those other channels. That's much more tolerable in my opinion. So that's an interesting amplifier. It's got 2 giant toroids in it, a big power supply, designed by ATI. You know that stuff is built to last, and it's 2,500 bucks. It's a little bit cheaper than this guy. But one thing I do like about the Yamaha is every channel is rated at the same power, 150 watts times 11. But they also give you a cool slick feature now. They do a bridge tied load option on the front 2 channels. So if you're only going to use it as a 9-channel amp, you could bridge 2 of the channels for the left side, 2 of the channels for the right side. And what that does is you got one channel doing the positive cycle going to your speaker, one channel doing the negative cycle going to your speaker. So that gives you double the voltage. Now in theory, when you do a bridged amplifier, V squared power equals V squared over R, you should get 4 times the power, but in reality that never works out that way because it just requires way too much current draw to do that kind of power levels as you lower the impedance of the speaker. So in most cases they do some type of current limiting, or maybe they change the feedback resistor value so the voltage gain doesn't quite go up that much. Usually you get twice the power when you do a bridged amplifier. In Yamaha's case it's a little different, and I'm actually a little bit surprised by it. When you look at their spec sheet, their 150 watts single amp mode only goes to 200 watts in bridged mode. So I'm a little curious about that. I know Yamaha and a lot of the Japanese companies tend to be very conservative with their power ratings. You know, like they do that dreaded impedance switch, so they can lower the heat requirements to meet the heat dissipation requirements for UL, so they could get the 4 ohm rating. Never use that impedance switch. It's a disaster, my friends, and we've done many videos on that. So I'm going to be testing this. Like I said, I'm going to compare this to the MX-A5200. I want to see what kind of power we're going to get out of this. And I'm going to see if it really is only 200 watts at 8 ohms. Just remember, when you bridge an amplifier, that the amplifier is going to see half the load impedance each channel that it's driving. So you don't want to, if you're going to bridge a load, you typically don't want to do it if the speaker is only like a 2 ohm rating or it has dips in 2 ohms. You can have some problems there. But as I said, Yamaha puts a lot of nannies in their amps, and the original MX-A5200 really never got warm. Even when I was blasting it, I never heard the fans turn on. So it's a good design. I want to see what's in this box. Now, they said they made some enhancements to this model, the 5200 over the 5000. I think they redesigned the power supply. They put some, they thickened up the chassis to reduce vibrations. If you look at it, it weighs a couple more pounds. I think it weighs like 58 pounds or close to 60 pounds. So it's a decent sized amplifier. I mean, it's got some good weight to it. And it's definitely an upgrade to if you were like using the 150 watt amp built into the RX-A 3080. There's definitely, because you got, and I'll show you when I take it apart, just more heatsink area really makes a difference, and a bigger power supply. So we got a manual here. Now the one thing I kind of faulted Yamaha on the MX-A5200 was the back panel. It was the most confusing back panel I've ever seen on an amplifier, trying to figure out what channel goes to what speaker connection. I hope they clean that up a little bit. This is a pretty thick manual, but it's got all the different languages. So you get your manual, warranty card, you get a trigger cord, so you can plug it into your preamp and trigger it. Of course, you got your power cord, and Yamaha Doesn't use an earth ground, so it's a two-prong connector. Looks like it's about a 14 gauge power cord. So there's that. Let's put that to the side. I love opening this stuff. To me, it's like being a kid during Christmas again. I get to live that all over again, my childhood memories, but I could never get this kind of audio equipment when I was a kid, so it's kind of a mixed blessing, to be honest with you, because sometimes it gets tedious opening this stuff and reviewing it. But we do it for our fans. We do it for you. This is a nice little guy here. Now I'm looking at the toroid here. It's a beautiful toroid. It's not a huge toroid. I don't know what their VA rating is. I would guess by looking at the size and the thickness, it's probably around a 1 kVA. So with the monoprice amp, you're probably getting almost double the power supply. But there's something special about when you get a Yamaha flagship model. It's kind of like a work of art, in my opinion. It's got a bit of heft to it. You know, with all my back issues, I try not to lift things that are more than about 100 pounds now. So this is not within that limit, but I'm gonna pull this out. And I'm gonna be very cumbersome in trying to get this away from the box. I'll just throw this on the ground. So let's look at this here. There's the two heat sinks I was telling you about. I'm sorry, the two fans I was telling you about. Right here. Like I said, I've never heard these fans turn on. Maybe when I was doing bench tests on the old model. And they have their signature 5th foot. What would a Yamaha Avantage product be without that 5th foot? So for those who have an audio foot fetish, just remember Yamaha's got you covered with that 5th foot. And their theory behind that is they put that in the center of the chassis or wherever the center of the mass is. It looks like it's about the center, maybe a little bit back more. And it supposedly balances the weight distribution and it cuts down vibrations. I don't know. I think they delve a little into the esoteric, to be honest with you. But here's the back panel of it. We'll put some B-roll on it. And they do have the connections for bridge tied load. I believe over here, this looks kind of like a mess, kind of like the old amplifier, but we'll figure it out. What I'm gonna do is this isn't something you often see on unboxing videos. I'm gonna take the top off and we're gonna take a look at the insides. So I don't recommend you do this at home. I will do this for you. And if I destroy it, it's on me. But if you destroy it, it's on you, and then you can't send it back. So I got my trusty Roby drill, and we will see what's inside this baby. I'm sure Yamaha, if they're watching this, they're probably cringing right now that I'm taking this thing apart, but guys, just so you know, anytime I review anything, I take it apart. And I let manufacturers know that, so sometimes they don't want to send you stuff because they don't like their stuff being uncovered. But Yamaha's not one of those companies. Yamaha's like, you know, do whatever. They have a lot of confidence in their product, and they should. Because Yamaha makes nice product. A lot of screws here. I like it because it keeps the chassis very steady, very stiff. And then there's just a couple of screws on the back here. We'll get some detail on this. All right, let's undress her. Hope I don't get a violation for saying that on YouTube. Oh, there it goes, okay. All right, we got the top off. They put a lot of padding here. That's pretty cool. Really thick, actually. This is a pretty sturdy top frame on it, steel. Like I said, look at the size of the heat sinks here. This is pretty good. I mean, you don't get all of this space in a receiver. And this is actually a pretty nice transformer here. Big power supply capacitors, very high voltage rating. That's why they look so big as well. It's actually a beautifully laid out amplifier. You know, they have these separate circuit boards for everything. Pretty thick gauge wiring on the power supply here. I don't know what the capacitor rating is. I gotta kind of look at that. But I know that these capacitors are proprietary to Yamaha. I know they make their own caps for this. And they did, you could see the thick plate under the transformer here. So in their marketing literature, they talk about putting a thicker plate there to reduce vibrations. Extruded aluminum heat sinks here with BJTs. It's a Darlington pair configuration, I believe. So it looks good. No, no surprises. Neatly laid out. And what we will do next is we will do a little bench test. We'll check out the bridge tied load, and we'll see what kind of power levels we're getting on this, because I'm really curious, to be honest with you. All right, my friends. Well, I think we are wrapped up here for this unboxing video. I'll give you one more look to take a look here. If you like this video, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. You know, do the bell notification so you can get notices when we go live. Sometimes I just sporadically go live. I get an idea to rant about something. I get someone on the phone on Google Hangouts, and I'll do a topic on anything, amplifiers, speakers, whatever. So please make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you subscribe to our Patreon channel, patreon.com/Audioholics, and you can get some other benefits. We can put some advanced content there before it goes on the Audioholics website, or we can give you invitations to our, special Google Hangouts kind of stuff. A lot of different perks there. Also, check out our Amazon store. We actually set up an Amazon branded store where we put recommended products through Amazon, so you guys can go there and, if you want to look at products we recommend, there's stuff in there, especially if you want to get into measurements. We do the room acoustic measurements. We show you the different microphones you could buy for that. We give you all the different receiver options. Like I said, if you don't go the separates route, the RX-A3080 is the closest thing you're going to get between this and the CX-A5200. The RX-A3080 gives you a 9-channel built-in amplifier, but it also gives you balanced preamp outputs, so you can add a 2-channel amp, whether it's an Emotiva or if it's a Monoprice or even an Outlaw. Those Outlaw amplifiers are awesome. You can add a 2-channel amplifier to that, and you could have very close to separates performance for a little, for around the same price. You'll have a lot of options of which ways you want to go. Personally, if you're going to get the CX-A5200, I like the matching aesthetics with this amplifier. I think it looks great. So we will do a bench test. We will do some listening tests. We will report back to you on our listening results and everything else, and let you guys know what kind of improvements Yamaha has made in this next generation, the 3rd generation of separates. So my friends, until next time, keep listening.